What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today I will be reviewing yet another beer from the Bell's Brewery, and they're out of both Kalamazoo and Comstock, Michigan, and this is their Double Two-Hearted Ale. So they're calling this a Double American IPA that comes in 11% alcohol by volume, no IBUs listed in time of review. This bottle is approximately 3.5 weeks old, so yeah, this beer has been hyped and just people going nuts about it over the past month or so, and I figured I'd grab one, give it a review. So regular Two-Hearted Ale, I think, is one of those quintessential classic American IPAs. It's delicious. I reviewed it on my channel a couple months ago, and yeah, it stands the test of time for me. You have all these crazy New England style IPAs and milkshake IPAs and so on and so forth, but Two-Hearted is just classic, and it's still really good. So when I saw that they were releasing this one in bottles, I was like, oh, it piqued my interest. I'm sure it piqued everyone's interest. Now, at the 2014 and 2015 Detroit Fall Beer Festival, they actually had this on tap at the fest, both years, I believe. Maybe just one, but I'm pretty sure it was both. And I didn't grab it, and I don't know why I didn't. I just didn't. The Detroit Fall Beer Festival is fantastic. There's like almost 1,000 beers, like 80 to 90 breweries, just crazy stuff. So Double Two-Hearted didn't stick out to a lot of the crazy beers that other places were releasing. But it's really cool to see them bottle it, and a lot of my friends and whatnot, and especially on YouTube, have reviewed this one and seem to really enjoy it. I've had some friends on tap not really care for it. It all depends, I guess, right, on your palate and what you're thinking about the base, and just a lot of different factors. That's why I'm reviewing it, to see what I think about it. Now on the back here, they say everything you love about our classic Two-Hearted Ale, now in a double IPA with 2.5 times the amount of Centennial hops. Double Two-Hearted has, and they go into tasting notes, it's basically the same tasting notes as the base, but it's bumped up. Shelf life 3 months. We're at 3.5 weeks, so we're good. And yeah, anyway, I actually picked this up outside of Cleveland, Ohio, on the way back from my trip a couple weeks ago to Cincinnati, and that's because I saw it on the shelf. It was in a cooler, and I was like, it probably been kept cold, and I don't know if there's any locally here that I can pick up, so I grabbed it, and here we are. So gonna give it a proper review, hopefully as proper as I can give it, and see how this one is. Like I said, a lot of people really seem to dig this one, and I'd imagine I will as well. I don't know which. Okay, let's say, looking at the label, like which way does it go? Anyway, let's give it a pour here. I'm using the witch's hat, technically. I don't have a Bell's glass, but I figured I'd use this and go, throw it in the teacu. So, yeah, anyway, pours out this really deep, like, brass color. Orange brass, like an orange brassy color. Definitely looks like an old school West Coast style IPA type of look to it. Has about a finger, like 3/4 finger of this like light tan. It's like a light tan cream colored head, really creamy looking. Looks pretty nice actually. Looks like an old school IPA. When I swirled up, definitely cream, light tan colored to the head. Anyway, it's good noise. A nose. Huh, it's actually a little bit more muted and subtle than I anticipated. So it's kind of very akin to the base Two-Hearted, but maybe a little bit more there. Big like caramel malts, but intense pine, yes. Nice citrus tone to this one, like orange and grapefruit. A little bit of like an apricot mango thing. As I'm smelling it, the sweetness is building up. I mean, it's 11% beer. So that's the thing. I see a lot of people have drank this one and they're like, oh, it's a big malty beer. It's hard. And this is even nowadays with New England style, it's hard to produce 11% hop forward beer that doesn't have an overt sweetness. It's 11%. So much malt is being used. It's tough. It's tough to pull off. So yeah, caramel, white bread, big resinous pine tones, a little bit of like a zesty citrus, grapefruit, orange, and then a touch of like stone fruit, apricot, and mango mostly. It smells really good though. Like I'm enjoying the aroma. It just smells like a bigger Two-Hearted, which that's what this beer is. So I'm actually enjoying the aroma, so let's get into the taste. Cheers, everyone. I dig it. I do. I dig it. Is there booze here? Yeah. Is it overly boozy? Not for my palate. I'd probably guess this in the 9 range, 8.5, 9. So it has that going for it. It's really hiding the alcohol extremely well after those first 2 tastes. But it is sweet. It is a big, sweet Imperial IPA. Body, It has a syrupy thickness to it. It's a bit thin at 11%, I would say, but it's still bigger than your typical like triple IPA. Like so many triple IPAs nowadays I drink, they don't have a viscosity to them that approaches like 11% stout or something like that. But this is like higher side to medium, lower side. I'd say more like lower side of full body. It definitely has a decent syrup component to it, or like a slick, oily feel too on the palate. The mouthfeel, really nice. There's carbonation. But carbonation is just like, it's soft carbonation for me. And it has a nice softness overall to the beer as well. So body and mouthfeel on this one, I really do enjoy. Like I think it's nice. The taste, right up front when I first took a sip, I don't know if it's the reaction on the camera is gonna be the same as what I was processing in my head. I don't know how how I was reacting on camera, but I almost got like orange marmalade vibes up front. It was like there was a big white bread, and then there was like this orange sweetness, but then it kind of just dissipated almost instantly. So right up front, tons of like caramel bready white bread, tons of caramel for sure. Big malty component to this one, and mixed in with that is that sweeter citrus fruit, a sweeter orange, sweeter grapefruit. As it passes through the palate, that pine kicks in. Halfway through the palate for me, that pine hits, and it is pretty intense. There's an underlying mango, apricot, stone fruit thing, but it's very slight and minute. If I wasn't getting the nose, I probably wouldn't tell you in the taste it really carried over all that well because that pine's so big. It finishes sweet. There is a slight dryness on the palate. And then there's like a moderate bitterness here to kind of offset the sweetness. I don't think it offsets it enough for me personally. I still think this one finishes sweet, but again, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's tough to pull off an 11% double, or dare I say triple IPA, whatever you want to call it, imperial IPA nowadays, and not have a sweetness to it. It's very tough to do that. I think they've done a decent job at kind of balancing the bitterness, the sweetness on the finish along with the dryness. It still leans to the sweeter side of things. I'm feeling the effects more of the alcohol than I'm actually tasting them. I think this is quite impressive that they kind of, I think they've hid the alcohol enough in this one where I'm happy with it. It drinks like a 9% beer, which is still a big beer, but an 11%, it really doesn't approach it as far as the alcohol is concerned on my palate, in my chest. There's a little bit of warming in the stomach, but like, yeah, it's boozy, but it's not overly so. So, man, here's the thing. I really like this beer, but I think I'd rather have regular Two Hearted. And I know that might be, I don't know. I think a lot of people would probably challenge me on that and be like, what are you talking about? Might be blasphemous. I don't know. Could be. But I think regular Two Hearted for me is like one of those classic beers that I think this just pretty much is what they went for, is like a beefed up version of their Two Hearted. For me, I'd rather drink the Two Hearted. It's lower in ABV. It's easier to put away. This does drink extremely well for an 11% double IPA or imperial IPA or triple IPA, whatever you want to call it. The second time I said that, but they say Double American IPA, whatever. Who cares? I don't even know what I'm talking about. But I think I'd like the base better, personally. That said, do I? I don't know. I mean, I should have done a side-by-side just to see. That would have been fun to do, right? I don't know. I'm hitting the table, probably because I'm hammered at this point. I think a side-by-side of the base in this one, maybe similar freshness, like, a month old, would be fun to do. But at the end of the day, I really can't say this is a bad beer or anything. It's damn tasty. As far as an 11% Imperial IPA goes, I'm enjoying it. So double Two Hearted Ale from Bell's. I'm going to give this a high 4 out of 5. I'm going to go 4.1 out of 5. I think it deserves it. I can't go much higher than that. It's not overly complex, and Two Hearted isn't to begin with. But for me, I'm happy with a couple things from this beer. I can't really taste a huge 11% ABV, and maybe that's different for some people out there. For me, it drinks more of like a 9%, which is still big, but just not 11%. Really like the body and mouthfeel on it. I just wish there was a little bit more balance between the sweetness and the bitterness. I want a little bit more bitterness here and a little less sweetness and a little bit more complexity. If you're going to bump it up to 11%, I want to be like blown away by the complexity, and I'm not. It just really tastes like a bigger version of Two Hearted Ale, which, to be fair, that's what they're pretty much going for. So I can't really knock them too much, but I think a 4.1 out of 5 is a pretty good score. So yeah, 4.1 out of 5, double Two Hearted Ale from Bell's. If you've had this one before, let me know what you think about it. I'd be curious to hear other people's thoughts that haven't reviewed it on YouTube or aren't on Untappd friends with me. This one, as far as price and availability goes, I'm pretty sure this gets this was wherever Bell's got distribution. I know my buddy Sadiq down in Georgia got it. I got it in New York. A lot of people, I think if you get distro Bell's, you get this beer. And price point, I paid $3.19 for this bottle on the way back, like I said, from Cincinnati in just outside of Cleveland, Ohio. I know in my neck of the woods, I believe 6-packs were $17.49 or like $18 a 6-pack. So you're right around $3 a bottle. I think that's a good value for 11% Imperial IPA. I mean, it is. Like I said, this reminds me of Hop Slam in a lot of ways. I know there's a lot of people out there that love Hop Slam. I like Hop Slam. I think the hype with this one got, and the hype that Hop Slam used to get back in the day, I think it's kind of one of those things where these beers a lot of times become overrated for people. I'm not saying for me they're personally overrated, because I don't go crazy about them to begin with. Like, I wasn't trying to find this one and going to a bunch of bottle shops. If you did, that's cool. But for me, I just wasn't, going crazy about this one. I remember when Hop Slam showed up here, it was chaos when Bell's first got distribution. I mean, every place was getting it and selling out of cases instantly, and like it'd be like an hour off the shelf. And I waited to try Hop Slam, and I finally tried it, and it was pretty damn good. But it wasn't like one of those beers that I was going crazy about. I think I put this one in the same category for me. I think it's a well-made, well-brewed Imperial IPA, albeit maybe a bit too sweet for me personally. But it's nothing that for me, the hype isn't grabbing me from this one. But then again, if it does for you and you really like this beer, that's what craft beer is all about. You like what you like, I like what I like. Sometimes we like the same thing, sometimes we don't. So don't ever let anybody tell you your opinion is wrong when it comes to your opinion, because everyone's opinion is right. Anyway, now I'm kind of rambling, probably because this is 11%. I'm getting a little bit hammered. It happens. Anyway, appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review. Till the next one. Cheers.